Okay, so now we can chit chat for a couple of minutes. This is the open mic segment, and so this runs on YouTube. Something we didn't get into. What should we do about it?
Well, I think that, first of all, you have to understand what the problem is. Then you have to say, okay, how do we deal with the housing issue? Dealing with the housing issue through densification isn't going to get it done because dense housing is expensive, and you're not going to keep the families. You know, people in their 30s and 40s are going to leave. So even if they come in their 20s. So we have to figure out one of the things I've been thinking about is how do we create housing in what I think we're going to have an enormous number of redundant shopping centers. You know, I was driving around somebody from Canada on Sunday, and we were remarking how many shopping centers in Orange and Anaheim are really under-occupied. Could we build housing in these places? Could we repurpose space? I think those are things we could do. And I think we have to come up with some way to make it easier, and this is really a statewide issue, for older people to move out of their homes without paying an enormous penalty for doing so.
Yeah, and so what? But that then are you talking about changing the tax code and everything, and
allowing people to take their Prop 13 protections with them when they move? That would certainly help. And then I think we have to look at building housing that seniors might be attracted to. Small, detached, single-story houses would probably be the way to go. I have friends in Houston who are building exactly that kind of housing now.
Yeah, you speak apostasy on a number of things.
Yeah, of course.
One being, and you alluded to it, this idea of housing. A lot of people say the millennials, the coming generation, they aren't interested in the suburban homes. They're all going to live. They like living, near a Starbucks. They like that kind of atmosphere, high density. You don't buy that.
Well, what I buy is that millennials, despite appearances to the contrary sometimes, are human beings, and they will grow up. And yes, there's a very strong proclivity, about 20-25% will live in dense urban areas when they're in their 20s. That goes down to about 10% when they're in their 30s. People grow up. They decide that they want to own something. They decide that they want to get married. They decide they're going to have children. They're not going to do that in a one-bedroom apartment in Irvine or any place else here in Southern California. So my notion is that people change over time. And as they change over time, they want different things. And Orange County has a particularly strong appeal to people in their 30s and 40s trying to raise families. It's very family-oriented. Moving from LA, this struck me, family-oriented, schools better, safer.
Okay. What do you think about this idea? It came up in a recent discussion that I saw you involved in about the fact that Orange County needs more of an identity.
Yes.
That, and that there was some suggestion that we should have a mayor, for example. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't think that necessarily would have to happen, but I do think, and this is Mayor Tom Tate of Anaheim's idea, is that I think we might want to have a county executive like we had where I grew up in Nassau County, New York, who was clearly the leader of the county and was elected countywide. We don't have a countywide person, and that might be a way of
but Silicon Valley doesn't have that either. And I mean, Silicon's not even, at least Orange County's a county. Silicon Valley is a valley, and they seem to have no problem with their identity.
Right, well, and I think, short of that, but that's, again, a cosmetic change, I think the most important thing is the business community in particular has to get together and say, we are going to market and develop Orange County along a certain kind of strategic vision. At the end of the report, we say, this is what was missing. We were astounded when we sent the students, wonderful students at Chapman, went to look. We couldn't find anyone who had done it. And I'll tell you, I go to Houston, you go to Dallas, you go to Raleigh-Durham, you go to Chicago, you go to Denver. They've got strategic thinking about where they're going. I see almost none of that here in Orange County.
And what happens when you talk to business people, bounce this off them? What do they say?
Well, it depends how many margaritas they've had. You know what? I think this is such a wonderful place to live, such a relaxing place to live. There isn't that competitive spirit. I think people are very satisfied. And also, let's face it, a lot of the older people, our generation, are living in homes that are now worth $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, depending on where you are. And they're kind of fat and happy. This is working out great for me. Oh, by the way, where are your kids? Oh, my kids live in Nashville.
Yeah. So until they die and the kids can come and inherit the home or whatever,
well,
assuming that estate taxes don't kill them.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'll talk to people in Villa Park and they say, my son came by, he's just waiting for me to pass so he can move into the house.
Okay, well, Joel, always great talking to you. Thanks so much.
Great fun. Thank you.
Yeah.